This video is going to be the first of a few that in which I'm going to take a look at some of the old N64 games, some of the overlooked ones and popular ones alike, and just talk about them to kind of evoke that nostalgic feeling in other people and myself because that was an amazing era of games. I'd also like these to maybe get some people to take a look at these games again, maybe play them for the first time because I think some of the gamers of this generation are really missing out on some of the great games that came out 10, 11, 12 years ago. You talk to gamers today and they'll tell you that Halo 3 or Call of Duty 4 are the best games to grace this earth, but people that have been in the gaming community longer than that will just chuckle at that because they know better that most of the good games are not of this era. I've been playing games since Bubsy from the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, if anybody knows what that game is. It's a pretty fun game, very hard though. Anyways, let's start this thing off. First game I'm going to take a look at is called Space Station Silicon Valley. People that have played this game will probably tell you that it looks fairly cartoonish and very childish up front, but once you actually sit down with this game, it's a very, very entertaining experience. I don't think there's a game in existence that is like this game. Basically, you start the game as a microchip thing, and you go around, you explore this space station that got lost in space, and you can take control of electronic animals. Basically, you kill them first, and then you jump into their bodies since you're a microchip. And it has some very cartoony elements, and it has a very interesting sense of humor. And I just all around really recommend this game to people who just are looking for that one of a kind experience. You probably won't be able to find this game in any store unless you have. I'm lucky enough to have a store near me that it's more like a warehouse that carries a lot of these old games, but a lot of places probably don't have that. So your best bet for this game is probably eBay. Though I will say, when I checked eBay for this game, the prices were fairly ridiculous. So if you're interested in this game, I wish you luck looking for it. So next up is Turok. A lot of people will know this game if they've been playing Nintendo 64 for a long time. This game is not the recent Xbox 360 game that came out. It's nothing to compare the old ones by. The 360 one it's just not that good, but it's not as bad as a lot of people say it is. There were 4 Turok games for the Nintendo 64. The first one that came out was called Turok Dinosaur Hunter. The second one, Turok Seeds of Evil. The third one, Turok. Oh God, what's that one called? It's a Turok Shadow of Oblivion. And the final one is Turok Rage Wars, which wasn't that great. But the Turok series is a very unique series. It combines some of the elements of GoldenEye and Doom into a kind of jungle thing where you're fighting prehistoric animals as well as cyborg humans. There's a very, very large selection of guns you can use, from ranging from knives to bows to nuclear cannons. So you can probably guess how ridiculous that gets sometimes. But the levels of Dinosaur Hunter are very diverse. It can range from just very lush forest, jungle, to an ancient city with people painted up like the undead. It's really cool. You don't see that kind of architecture in a lot of games, and the levels are massive. There's quite a few save points through the levels, but it's just massive. By today's standards, there's not many games out that have levels that big, even today. I don't want to give too many things away about the game, but if you're interested and you're a first-person shooter fan, you'll definitely enjoy this game. Like I said, the guns, there's a pretty ridiculous selection of guns. That nuke cannon thing is pretty, very destructive, and it's fairly pleasing. There's also another super weapon, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. So, moving on, Seeds of Evil is fairly different from its predecessor. There's different weapons, still equally over the top, but also equally pleasing as well. There's an edition. There's a weapon edition called the Cerebral Bore. Basically, a weapon shoots out this circular little thing that homes in on the enemy's head, and once it latches onto their head, it starts draining out brain fluid. It's pretty crazy as you think it is right now, probably. Turok 2 is much harder than the first one, and I believe there's fewer saves, harder enemies, and less ammo. It has an interesting feature that you can reload your ammo several times at certain save points, but you have to be very, very careful with that because if you're caught without ammo at certain parts, it could be very, very hard to continue on. I haven't beaten the game myself. As I said, it's very difficult. I've gotten past the first few levels, but that's it. The third one, Shadow of Oblivion, is a fairly good game. It starts to lose a little quality compared to the other two, but it's hard to match up to those two because those were just epic games. But again, there's a lot of the interesting weaponry found in previous Turok games, and the enemies are a little more diverse in this one, and it's a bit gorier, and I don't believe it's harder. I think it's actually easier than Turok 2, but all the same, it's worth looking up. Turok Rage Wars is an entirely different game, except for some recognizable characters and weaponry. Basically, if you've played any of the Unreal Tournament or Unreal Championship games, it's a similar experience. You have fixed weapon spawns throughout the level. You start with a certain set, and the combat's a lot like the Unreal series. If you like that, you could check it out, but the game's probably not going to interest you that much. It's not that great. If you're a hardcore Turok fan, I'd recommend it, but otherwise, you might just want to skip that one because it's probably not worth the amount of money you'll find it for. Now, next up is a game called Body Harvest for Nintendo 64. This is quite possibly my favorite game for it, and if you're a GTA fan, you'll definitely enjoy this game. I've heard around the internet that this game is actually kind of the godfather of Grand Theft Auto because it has a similar play style. It's open world and there's a lot of vehicles. Basically, the story is aliens have come to Earth to harvest humans, and you have to go back in time before it happens to stop it in certain sections. That the aliens will block off a certain area with shields, and you can't really get out of those. You have to operate in that certain area, but you use a lot of the indigenous vehicles to get around. You'll find basically little crappy Volkswagen cars to tanks and all the way around. It's very worth the time and money required in looking for it, but it's definitely one of the best games for the N64, I think. It's a third-person shooter. You have a pretty versatile camera that you can change around at certain parts, but it's all around an awesome experience. I highly recommend it to people, and nothing I really say here can do the game justice, so I suggest looking up videos for it on YouTube. I know there's one person that has a whole channel dedicated to the game. I'll put his channel in my description. But that basically concludes this one video, and if it does well and gets a decent amount of views and people enjoy it, I'll do another one. But until then, that's it. Thanks.